What's poppin', party people? It's time for the main event of the evening between the challenger, Henry Triple C Cejudo, and the reigning, defending, undisputed UFC bantamweight champion of the world, Aljamain, the Funkmaster Sterling. That was fun. Yeah, guys. So if you hadn't guessed, we're going to be breaking down Aljamain Sterling versus Henry Cejudo today. Big fight, legendary fight in the bantamweight division. You got Aljamain Sterling, the names on this guy's record, the grappling prowess, dominant fighter, going against one of the probably top 10 fighters of all time, one of the greatest combat sports athletes of all time, one of the best resumes in combat sports ever, Henry Cejudo. And let's get into it. Let's break it down, boys. So, this fight is interesting. One of the first things I noticed when looking at this fight is the severe size advantage. Like, if you see Aljo next to Henry, Aljo is much, much, much bigger than Henry. And that plays a part to a degree. But again, Henry Cejudo has beaten guys that were bigger than him before. Dominic Cruz was a couple inches taller than him. But I think that the strength is really going to come into play. So both of these guys are grapplers. It's in some degree. Henry's a world champion wrestler. Aljamain Sterling is a great jiu-jitsu practitioner. But I think Henry's a little bit more skilled when it comes to just wrestling, of course. But that may be nullified by the strength of Aljamain Sterling and the ability to transition into submissions of Aljamain Sterling. As far as on the feet goes, I think Henry's at a severe advantage, although Aljamain tends to be a little bit awkward. Henry had success against Marlon Moraes when he started just trying to walk Marlon down. And Marlon was very tired because Marlon did a lot in the first couple rounds. Definitely took the first couple rounds against Henry. I don't think that Aljo is going to gas out like Marlon did. So I think that Henry might have to start trying to walk Aljo down earlier to try to get him tired. But I think Aljo plays the outside well. He knows how to play the outside. He played the outside the first round against Jan in their second fight very well, and he steps in with big lead elbows. He steps in with flying knees, and if Henry gets caught with Aljo exploding forward into him, it could be a bad thing for Henry. But yeah, I think Henry has the advantage overall in the striking. Henry's ability to kick, Henry's ability to control distance with his lead hand. He catches the reins very well. Henry's very technical, and Henry's obviously shown the ability to hurt people on the feet, which is interesting. And, it's a 5-round fight. I know Henry Cejudo of old had that dog in him to the point where, he's fine with a 5-round fight, and he has the heart of a lion. But he's been out for 3 years. That can affect somebody, especially knowing that he was at the fights intoxicated. He was obviously a lot more bloated up due to him, eating whatever he wanted, drinking whatever he wanted. And now he's back in shape. But, you don't really get that feel of a fight unless you're in a fight. So he'll get that feel against Aljo. But Aljo, I know TJ was hurt in his last fight, popped his shoulder out, whatever. But Aljamain just looked like a smashing machine in that fight. Like, got on top of him and was raining down blows. Got Jan's back and was punching Jan up from the back position. Aljamain's a very physical, very aggressive fighter when he gets an opportunity to be that. And that may surprise Henry coming off of a layoff. Another thing that's a factor in this fight is it sounds as though Henry is very, very confident against Aljo. I think these guys that have been fighting Aljamain lately, they step into the fight thinking this is a lesser champion that they're facing. They think, this guy isn't, at the tier that a champion sometimes can be. And then they get woken up once they're in there with Aljo when Aljo is just pressing them against the fence, or he winds up getting their back or tripping them, or hitting them, splitting them open with an elbow, or he's sending a flying knee up the middle. Aljamain Sterling is every bit as good as any other UFC champion, really. He's not a lower level champion, and I think people are starting to understand that, but I don't think Henry understands that from the way that he talks. Henry's also a dad now. See him carrying around his daughter. He's got another one on the way. Once you're out of the fight game a little bit, you might as well be out of it all the way, because that half commitment is going to be dangerous when you're in there with a hungry fighter. Now, I'm not saying that Henry is half committed. If he's going to come back and he has intentions to fight Alexander Volkanovski, then he's probably full committed. But I'm just saying it's a possibility. Aljamain Sterling always has something to prove. But I think even more so now because Henry Cejudo has been running his mouth against about everybody that's even made any kind of noise in the bantamweight division since he's been gone. Talking about Peter Yan, calling him Peter Pan. Sugar Sean O'Malley, he called him Ronald Meth Donald the other day. That is literally one of the funniest things I ever heard. Hot take: Henry Cejudo's fighter nicknames might be funnier than Colby's fighter nicknames. He called Aljamain Alja Shit Stain Sterling. I was cracking up about that to myself throughout the day, because it's just so, it doesn't even roll in right. It doesn't sound like it flows, but it's just so funny. He said Alja Shit Stain Sterling. That's great. And then you got, Ronald Meth Donald, Peter Pan. He's got a bunch of them, man. And he's funny. But, that Aljo's got to face that guy now that's been talking all that crap on the sideline for all these years now. And also, he's always going to have to prove that, he's really that guy. Because what happened was, people don't like Aljamain Sterling, right? And me, I'm absolutely baffled as to why. I love Aljamain Sterling. I'm a fan of Aljamain. I don't understand why people don't like him. They act like he's similar to Woodley. Woodley was narcissistic and dumb and just played the villain role and everything. Aljo is a humble guy. He doesn't really talk crap unless it's the time to talk crap. And he's just a good dude, and he's a great, brilliant fighter. What happened was people assumed that Petr Yan was going to be the champion for a long, long time. And then when Yan decided to throw an illegal knee and clearly blast Aljo while he's on the ground, people somehow decided they didn't like Aljamain Sterling after that, which is great. Oh, because he took out the belt and took pictures with his friends. Why don't you guys try becoming the UFC World Champion by hook or crook anyway, and then tell me that your friends and family aren't going to want you to take the belt out when you just achieved your lifelong dream, regardless of how you did it. But anyway, so Aljo wins the belt like that, and people hate it. Then people just talk for over a year about how Jan's going to murder him, Yan this, Yan that, blah, 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 blah. And it enraged them so much that Aljamain shut that shit down and beat Petr Yan. Just beat him outright clean. Nothing you can say about it. And people are just so upset about that. Because now this guy that they hated on for so long proved to actually be the man. So now they're infuriated because they weren't right. So now they're going to hate on him even more. Then he fights TJ. One of the biggest pieces of shit in the history of MMA, too. TJ Dillashaw is a horrible person. Ended, what's his name's career? A guy that would have been amazing. Team Alpha Male guy. Chris Holdsworth. Ended his career in the training room. Took EPO most likely his whole career. Like, let's not sit here and beat around the bush and say he only took steroids once. His Team Alpha Male teammates were accusing him of taking the exact same steroid he got popped for years before he even popped for it. So I don't think that's a coincidence. You know what I'm saying? So he took steroids his whole career. And when Aljamain fights him, people hate Aljamain more than him. All because what? What did Aljamain do? Like, and Aljamain's so humble all the time. Watch the initial face-to-face with Henry Cejudo and Aljo. Literally, Henry Cejudo is just going off on him, and he's just like, okay. Like, so I don't understand it. Anyway, beats the shit out of TJ. TJ's injured, and now that's Aljamain's fault. It's Aljo's fault that TJ Dillashaw decided to step into the octagon injured. And now it's like, oh, we hate you even more. You didn't really beat TJ. Actually, he did really beat TJ because if you step in the octagon injured, you stepped in there willingly. So he beat TJ, guys. Sorry. He beat TJ Dillashaw. If TJ Dillashaw was so injured, he should have pulled out of the fight. He said he didn't want to hold it. That's great, but he still stepped in there. So that's him. Regardless, you put your reputation on the line every time you compete when you're an athlete. Doesn't matter how hurt you are. I don't care. I admire Ryan Garcia because I didn't hear about his rib injury going into the Tank fight until Showtime released a clip about it. But he never said nothing about it because he knows once you go into a fight, that's it. Once you go into a game, that's it. I don't want to hear about what you have. If it's so bad, sit out. That's it. So now people hate Aljo even more. So Aljo's always got something to prove. Not to mention they're in Newark, which is close to Long Island where he's from. So, and at the press conference, I just watched the press conference, it seems as though Henry is the crowd favorite. Like, in New Jersey, Henry is the crowd favorite. Like, why do they hate this guy so much? I don't get it. Anyway, let's get into the prediction. Now I've broken down the fight. I've broken down the story of the fight. I've broken down what it means to both fighters. Let's get into the prediction of the fight. I am rooting heavily for Aljamain Sterling. I like Aljo a lot. I want him to win. And I want him to get the credit he deserves. And I want him to get the boost of getting to fight Sean O'Malley and probably absolutely destroying Sean O'Malley. But I'm going to give it to Henry Cejudo. My pick is Henry Cejudo, guys. I think Henry is more well-rounded. Even though they're both pretty well-rounded, I think Henry's more well-rounded. I could see a world where Aljo can box on the outside until an opportunity to take the back presents itself. I do think if Aljamain gets the back, he may get the finish due to Henry doesn't have any size on him. So if he gets stuck in that position, he's pretty much beat. But I think what's most likely to happen is Henry's going to start hurting Aljo on the feet. He's going to start touching Aljo up a little bit to the point where Aljo's going to need to get a hold of him. Like, not bad, but just touching him up with some leg kicks, hurting him a little bit with leg kicks, touching him, just looking clean, just looking on point early in the fight. And Aljo's going to attempt some big explosive movements to get into range, to get a takedown. I think he's going to fail to get the takedowns. And then I think he's going to start getting tired. He's going to start getting behind on the scorecards. And I am going to say Henry by unanimous decision. But I wouldn't be surprised if Henry finished the fight in the 4th or 5th round. But my official prediction is Henry by decision. That's it, guys. That's what I got. Let me know in the comments who you guys think is going to win this fight. Hit the subscribe button. Keep this channel going. And, of course, like the video as well. Love y'all.